All right, welcome everybody. My name is Jeff Kolaski. I am the Vice President of Operations and Facility Services here at the Strategic Air Command and Aerospace Museum in Ashland, Nebraska. I'm here in our restoration hangar today with Restoration Manager and my friend Andy Beemer. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Jeff.
So we're doing something really cool right now. By we, I mean you did something really cool, and we have hired someone to do the next part of something really cool, which is restoration work on an F-117 Nighthawk, which is right behind us here. This is something we've been working on for a couple years.
Yep.
I was part of a team that got to go to Nevada to pick up this particular bird for our collection in 2021, right?
Yep.
You and your team have been working on this thing pretty tirelessly for the last couple of years, getting it ready for this step, which we're going to get into what we're doing right now, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the backstory of this particular jet.
Okay. This is tail number 85831. This was a test bird. It was at Palmdale in the Combined Test Force for most of its career. It has the most testing hours of any of the F-117s in the fleet, 2,720 hours. It was retired in 2008. At that point, it's part of the 410th Testing Squadron. And it was the last one retired as far as I can tell.
So this is a retired aircraft. Hopefully that's obvious if it's here in a museum. So Air Force getting ready to get rid of it. They just pack it up on a truck and send it to a museum, or how does that work? What do they have to do before they do that?
Not quite. Well, in 2008, when the Air Force finished up operations with F-117s, the aircraft were taken to Tonopah. The wings were taken off them. They were stored with the wings off in hangars, like 5 to a hangar, and they were waiting to see if the aircraft was going to go back into service. As it turns out, they didn't, other than a couple of them that they still fly for test. So a couple of years ago, they started divvying them up to machine museums. About 4 museums a year get an F-117. Our turn was 2021. So then they took them out of the hangar one by one and demilled them.
Okay, what's that mean?
So this aircraft has a lot of secret stuff on it, mostly to do with the radar cross-section. But the radar signature of it. So they mostly have to take the radar absorbent materials, which is the matting on the surface of the whole aircraft, off in a giant blast hanger. While they're doing that, they also take off the entire periphery of the aircraft from the leading edges and trailing edges back to sort of a bulkhead here. That's all radar absorbent structure. And so, that also gets blasted off and discarded.
So we're seeing it right now. It's bare metal, right?
Correct.
Mostly bare metal, except for some of the priming you've done. The iconic flat black that you see on like the B2s and the U2s and the SR-71s and the F-117s, correct?
Right.
It doesn't come with any of that because that's all plastic,
right?
So you guys, like you said, you had to build a big portion of this. How do you do that? I mean, I know you've got a lot of knowledge yourself and with your volunteer team, but how do you guys know what this is supposed to look like? You're not just looking at photographs, right?
No, in this case, the Lockheed supplied a set of what are museum prints to build the periphery of the airplane. Every museum that's getting one gets that set of prints, and it's a whole bunch of engineering drawings to give you the geometry to fabricate the exterior periphery of the aircraft.
And you have the knowledge yourself and your team to read those and fabricate this. That's a pretty impressive team you've got here at the museum.
Between me and my guys, we managed to figure it out.
Yeah, well, it looks beautiful. When you received this thing and you started looking around it, were there any surprises? Anything? It was sitting in the hangar for a while, like you said. It made a trip all the way to Omaha or to Ashland, Nebraska. And were there any surprises when you started poking around in it?
Well, the first thing is when you blast an airplane, with an abrasive media, it gets everywhere. So several hundred pounds of plastic abrasive media came out of the airplane when it got here. In fact, when we took it off the truck, we tried to blow out all the insides as much as we could. That was a couple pounds. And then, every time you remove the panel, you'd have stuff coming out. We got off better than most museums, though. We only had a couple hundred pounds.
Yeah.
So there was that. Other surprises involved.
What about when you opened those bomb doors? What was something? Because there's bomb doors in here, right?
Yeah, there was some fun stuff in here. We opened the bomb doors, and when the plane was retired, it was had the signatures of everybody who worked the program.
Yeah.
At the time.
I thought that was neat.
So we made really careful to preserve that.
Yep. Very cool.
And that was nice.
So what we're getting ready to do here is put the iconic black coating on the F-117, but we're not doing it in a way that most people are doing it when they receive their F-117s, right? What are we doing differently than just putting a coat of paint on this thing?
Well, we thought rather than paint the aircraft like we have everything else in the museum, that we do the best we can to replicate the radar absorbent material that covered the whole aircraft. So we thought we'd try an automotive wrap. So we teamed with a company called Mobile Wraps. They've done a lot of work for us here at the Strategic Air Command and Aerospace Museum, and I think they're really excited to do this. They just started today, and we're going to get a few words from one of their, I think it's the owner of the company, Cody, I believe. He's the owner of the company, Mobile Wraps, and they are going to tell us a little bit more about this process. Thanks, Andy. Thanks.
All right, so I am here with Cody Albright, the owner of Mobile Wraps. He's part of the team that is going to be doing this automotive-style wrap on an F-117 Nighthawk. So, Cody, you guys went through a lot of testing, a big process before you ever even got started to figure out what kind of wrap you're going to put on this thing. What did that look like, and why did you choose whatever you chose?
Yeah, we did. We took the top 4 manufacturing of auto wraps, put 10 pieces on each different areas of the jet, and then we just waited about a month to get that adhesion there, and then we did pull test. So
pull test, that's literally just pulling on the wrap, seeing how well it's sticking.
Yep. See if if it's going to stick super well, or if it's not. So,
what was your thought when we reached out to you and said, "Hey, we're considering doing this. You've done a bunch of good work for us. You wrapped a trailer, a truck, a mini F-22 for us, and a few other things." And we're like, "Hey, this is the big one. We want to see how this goes." What was your reaction to that? What was your thought?
Super excited, to be honest with you. And then looking at it, all the different angles, and just the challenge that we'll have.
Yeah, so, I was going to say, how do you even wrap a jet like this? So this is, we've got aircraft all over this, and this is probably the most complicated one we could have given you because of all the crazy angles and all the different surfaces. And there's a lot of different materials on this too, because like when we just talked to Andy, there's different building materials that they had to put on, and then what the Air Force had to put on. All of that reacts differently to the adhesives that your wraps do. So how do you even start? How do you start this process?
We first start with the pull test, choosing the vinyl, and then you see where all the seams are at, and you play with the angles. So we try to make this as seamless as you can, because you don't want a bunch of seams. So you got to almost map it out. Yeah. And that's what we did a lot this morning. We mapped it out. Kind of got a good game plan going. So
any specific tricky areas that when you guys were looking this thing over, that you said, that's going to take a little trial and error, or that might be a little weird? Because as far as I know, unless someone out there on the internet knows differently, I think you are the first company, and we are the first museum to have one of these coated in this way. So there's no rule book. There's no there's no reference material here for you to look back on. What's the tricky areas on this aircraft for you?
It's probably towards the front. It has a bunch of different angles. So when you put a big piece there, you got to know exactly where to cut and how to cut it, so
Yeah.
it lays down, so you're not having a bunch of seams everywhere.
Right. So you cut it, you fold it, you heat it, you do all the tricks of the trade. Tell me all of those tricks.
I can't.
You can't. All right. So we get this thing wrapped, right? We're going to do, after that, we'll move on to the next process, which is putting the markings on it, right? So that'll be more of our restoration team figuring that out, figuring out where they go. We finished that. We've got this beautiful aircraft and it's nice flat black material that you guys put on it. How long is that going to last? When are we going to need to redo this again? How long can we expect before we have to do this?
We won't need to redo it.
No?
No, because with wraps, the UV is what harms the material.
Okay.
So inside climate control, it's not. Yeah.
No rain, no sun, no wind. So this thing will probably last forever, right?
Yeah, it will.
Cool. So maybe we can get this thing back in the air and watch this thing not fall apart. But anyway, okay. So Cody, thank you very much. You got Justin back here working away, pretending like we're not going. All right. Well, I think that's about it. Unless you have anything else you want to. Okay. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And stick with us while we get through this process. There will be updates along the way. And check out Mobile Wraps on all the stuff. They're also going to be showing some of this process as well. So thanks, everybody.
Next.
All right.